Hello everyone and welcome to my first video interview of 2021. This was pre-recorded back in December 2020, but what we are going to touch on today is planning or prepping for our 2021, a little bit about nutrition, but mostly about our physical well-being in terms of exercise. So I'm excited to reintroduce you to my daughter Taylor, who is a freelance photographer and a qualified personal trainer with Formula Fit in Silverdale. So welcome, Taylor.
Thank you.
Right, so as I said, Taylor's going to talk to us about how we prep for 2021. So I've got several questions for her, but first, Taylor, I know that we covered this last year, but can you please tell our audience again a little bit about yourself?
So I finished my Bachelor of Fine Arts and majoring in photo media, so film and photography, as well as finishing my honours year at Whitecliffe. But going a bit more into the personal training, I got my certification it'll be last year now, so 2020, and I also got my certification in TRX instructing as well as spin instructing. I guess my background in physical activity is I was always a really sporty child. I competed in a few bodybuilding competitions, and I've kind of been a part of style training since I was about 15 or 16 years old.
Right, that's right. So before we carry on, I'll just explain to the audience that you're not a certified nutritionist, but because of all your experience and all your study that you've done, you can offer them some tips and tricks, but it is important that they understand that you're not certified. Taylor, you mentioned TRX, and I know you've told me about TRX before, but can you explain that again?
So TRX is basically suspension training. So you've got straps that you can hook to one point. So it could be onto a bar, it could be onto a wall. And it's basically, they've got handles and you can do a various range of exercises on them. You can also put your feet through the loops. And what it does is as soon as you're suspended, so you're not off the floor, but the straps themselves are from one single point, and that's why they call it suspended. But it basically activates your core as soon as you go into a movement, because you're not as balanced on the floor, you only have your feet there. It kind of throws off your center of gravity, so stability is quite a big aspect of that.
Oh, okay, great. And these are straps that you buy from a sports shop, I'm presuming, if you are getting them at the gym?
Yeah. So quite a lot of gyms do have them. I believe majority of sports shops will have them, more in the workout sort of section, so where the boxing bags are and stuff. I believe majority will. You can get them online as well. I mean, I did my certification through the TRX site themselves, and they sell them on there as well. But yeah, they're pretty accessible, and they're really good to have at home. If you do, you can set up like a little system that you can clip them onto. And so yeah, super easy to use. They're also really good for recovery. A lot of people with injuries will use them because you can take the pressure off and there's a lot less jumping, but you can still get that high intensity feel with them.
Right, okay. So you're a personal trainer at Formula Fit. But, I've never asked you this before. Are you available? Some people don't want to go to a public environment like a gym for personal training. Are you open to going to people's homes if they require that?
Yeah, of course. So I'm a contractor, so I basically work for myself. I have my own business. I work under the branch of Formula Fit, so I instruct the classes, and I do most of my PTs there. But I'm also more than happy to go to someone's home, or if they want to do an outside workout, or some people want to go to the beach. I'm always happy to do anything like that.
Okay, that's great. Because some people simply need accountability as well, don't they? So if somebody wants to, work out in the sunshine and basically work out with a friend, that could be you, right?
Yep, Yep, exactly. I mean, accountability is a huge thing that I think a lot of people struggle with, if not everyone, especially when you have those really, really busy weeks and you're struggling to get to the gym. A personal trainer is that person in your ear that kind of keeps you, yeah, holds you accountable and reminds you of your goals. And I mean, even if I can be on the go and meet someone somewhere, whether it is at their house or outside, just to make it more flexible for them, that's kind of part of my service.
Yeah, because during our last interview, you explained to us that you take very seriously the personal trainer. So you really are working with the individual and really understanding their goals and understanding how they want to be communicated with so that you can reach the outcomes that they are looking to achieve, right?
Yep, exactly. And a lot of people aren't, who might not have been to the gym before, or don't necessarily like to be put in those environments and don't feel comfortable in like a gym environment. That's quite a big thing, and it can be really, really scary. Obviously, with a personal trainer, you've got someone there with you. But as I said, as you said, it's all about the client and making sure that they feel comfortable and making sure that we can find ways so that we can still get them to their goals and maybe build them up to that experience. So if it is somewhere outside of the gym, then that's definitely something I can offer.
Mm, mm. And I think also I work with employers and business leaders all the time. And I think that one thing that they can do for their staff is to promote physical wellness in their teams, because not only does it lift our spirits, it also makes us healthier. Therefore, the employer has less downtime with his staff. He has better engagement with his staff. Oh, I shouldn't say his or her staff. Sorry, audience. And yeah, so your services can be applied in many environments.
Yep, exactly. And I mean, things like boot camps, or even, as you say, like team workouts, what it does, it kind of brings you all together, especially if it's a hard workout. You're all struggling together, you're all building up a sweat together. There is a level where you can incorporate teamwork, so team building things that do bring a business together and colleagues together. So I mean, I wouldn't see any harm in it, and if anything, it would be really beneficial to a lot of businesses to bring, yeah, their colleagues together.
Yeah, so maybe business leaders, if they don't already have that system in place, could look at that as being one of their goals, or one of their offerings to their employees through 2021. Okay, so shall we get started?
Yep.
So now we're looking at prepping for 2021. So my first question is, um, some of us would have overindulged through the Christmas season. So we spoke about this last year, and now we're feeling guilty about it. So what are your thoughts on guilt around food, but exercise?
So I guess this is where I'm going to be a little bit blunt, and it's basically because it's not black and white. Everyone's going to get guilty, whether it's over Christmas. They're going to feel guilty. There's particular things. It's a human reaction. If you do something that you know you shouldn't have done, naturally you're going to feel guilty about it. Um, but where it's a bit black and white is guilt is past tense. It's something you've already done, and you can't change that. So what's the point in um, like breaking yourself down about it and revisiting something that's already in the past, it's already processed, and more thinking about what you can do from this point to move forward. So the best thing I would say for people is to accept it. Okay, cool, that happened. Maybe I shouldn't have done it. Learn from it for next time and remind yourself for next time. But think about, okay, what can I do to now move forward? That doesn't mean because you've overindulged that you don't eat, or because you haven't exercised, you make up for all those hours that you didn't exercise and overtrain. It means getting back to that same normality that you were at before as fast as possible so that your body does bounce back. Your body is really, really good. It's got muscle memory at remembering where you were. And so as fast as you can get back on track to where you were going, where you were, the easier it is going to move forward.
Right.
Yeah.
That's great. I love that, that it's a past event. I suppose it's going back to the conversation we had last year, it's going back to something that's sustainable, right? So binge dieting or binge exercising is not the way to go. You need to get that balance back.
Yeah, exactly. And as soon as so when you restrict, especially from eating, um, I would say 95, if not 99% of people will hit a binge because you've been so restrictive and you finally feel, whether it's after a timeline, so say you give yourself like a 10-week program, as soon as that 10 weeks is over, you're going to be like, well, I can have this now. And then you overindulge and you binge. Or you get to a point where you're like, oh, I just can't be bothered. And you have something bad. And then you're like, well, I've ruined it now. So let me just keep eating.
Yeah.
It's limiting that and trying not to put yourself in a situation where you do feel that way, because it is a mental battle. It's a huge mental battle. So if you can find balance with something that works for you, it feels good, it fits in with your lifestyle, and hey, you're going to fall off sometimes. Like, not everyone's perfect. Life gets busy. You have Christmas, you go away on holiday, things are going to take a step back, but it's where you move forward onto that's the most important part.
Yeah, and you touched on it as well. Guilt can be inhibiting, and that it can stop you moving forward. So, somebody might have gained several kilos over the Christmas period, and may think, "Oh, couldn't possibly go back to the gym in this condition," and then they don't go back. So, and I know even with, when you was on your doing your competitions in the early stages, you yourself enjoyed the binge eating after being on such a restrictive diet, right? So you had to really train yourself not to do that, didn't you?
Yep, yep. So after my first competition, that was probably the biggest one. I was quite young. I just turned 18, I believe. And so I yo-yoed really bad. I had been from super restrictive, was really low body fat, and I was like, I'm finished now. I can eat what I want. And I kind of stopped training because I wanted to rest, and I was sort of over it at that point. And it was really, really hard to then, because I had gained a bit of weight and I wasn't performing the way that I used to get back into the rhythm of things. And I beat myself up about it. And looking back now, I wish I could have just said literally what I just said before, where it's black and white. It's past. You need to move forward. And if you've got these goals and you really want them, you will work for them. And it doesn't matter where you start. Also, like, a big thing that happens is you're going to notice that you either gain weight or you lose performance before anyone else really will.
Yes.
So things that you micromanage, most people probably don't notice. So, like, get back on track and you'll find that things start to unfold and people really just didn't even see it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that goes in all aspects of our life. People are so busy with their own lives. They don't
Exactly.
really see everything they think they see.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Fantastic. Great responses, Taylor. All right, so question number 2. Some people would have made New Year's resolutions about their physical well-being. What is the first step in planning and setting ourselves up for a successful regime of exercise and nutrition?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think a lot of people do this normally and naturally, um, when making resolutions, is they review the year before, and they think about maybe what they did, what they didn't do, and where they want to be sort of going through this new year. I think that's huge when it comes to nutrition and exercise. Look at things that you did well, look at things that maybe you didn't do so well, or things that kind of pulled you back a little bit, um, and then try and find your steps forward. So that's where goal setting comes into play. And the main thing with goal setting is you want to make them realistic and achievable. Don't set these goals that you know that you're never going to be able to reach. because you're just going to be constantly fighting to get somewhere that you know is not realistic. As well as like small goals, make short-term, make long-term goals. Make something so that you have checkpoints along the way. You're not just looking at this long-term goal that keeps moving away, rather than something that's maybe 4 or 6 weeks. So if you're wanting to lose body fat, what's a way of doing that? I don't really like the scales. I think the scales, it's a good way of tracking, but they don't really give you as much information as, say, a photo, so a progress photo, or even more specific measurements. And find something that you know that you can stick to, or even well, not easier, it's hard for a lot of us, but a little bit more day to day. Set out weekly goals for, hey, I want to go to the gym 3 times this week. By the end of the week, you've ticked something off and you feel good about it. And that's what a goal's there for, to make you feel good and make sure that you keep moving forward. So goal setting is huge. Reviewing your year previously, what you did well, what you didn't do well. Even things like looking at your year ahead. So maybe you've got a new job, or maybe you're studying. What do you want to make of that year? Like, what do you want to get out of it? Maybe you want, in the job, maybe you want to join the police force. What do you need to do to get there? And again, that kind of comes into goal setting, but as soon as you break it down for yourself, it's a little bit more manageable. It's easier to get your head around. And I guess along with that, remind yourself of those goals. So a lot of us are visual learners, or we need those visual reminders, something that stays in our mind. Write your goals down, put them down in a book or your diary that you open every single day, or write them on a whiteboard that you see every day. Put a photo up on your wall of yourself, and it just reminds you, it's a little checklist that reminds you at the start of each day what you're working towards, so that it doesn't kind of just veer off into this thing that, well, I made this at the start of the year, then I come to the 6-month mark or the 4-month mark, and I've just forgotten about it completely.
Yeah, exactly. And we do forget about things. And I know the goals that I have written down, those are the ones that I achieve, because they are in front of me all of the time. And you touched on it a little bit there as well. So we need to be able to measure our results so that we can feel a sense of success, right? At small in small increments. So you mentioned, I think, maybe 6 weeks. Give yourself some measurability, and the photo is one of them. You also physically take measurements at the beginning and its stages, don't you?
Yep. So you can do that. That also depends on what your goals are. So if it is to drop body fat, or it is to drop weight, or maybe you want to build muscle, measurements is such a great way to find out where you are dropping that weight. So you can't because you train your arms all the time, you can't choose that you're going to lose your weight from your arms. That's where muscle toning comes into play, but you can sort of be a bit more accurate with where you potentially hold your body fat. So say you hold your body fat in your legs, and then over a certain amount of time, as you're working through dropping body fat, you lose measurements around like a centimeter around your legs, then you know you're sort of working towards something. Whereas if you're trying to build muscle, then, as I said, like it's just a really good way of keeping yourself accountable. I mean, in terms of the scale, it's similar to BMI. It doesn't take into all accounts of people's height. It doesn't take into their bone density. It doesn't take water retention or anything like that. So if you're just using it as a guide and you're not really looking at the weight itself, I think it's fine. But it can be something that can be quite misleading. Also, muscle weighs more than fat. So that's another thing that comes into play.
Yes. Yeah, and because we're looking at, some people don't look at their bodies at all, but most of us would be conscious of our bodies every day. Because we're seeing it constantly, we don't necessarily pick up the gains that we've made. So it's important that we do see that, and I think with some of your personal training clients, I felt from time to time that they haven't made the gains that they wanted to, but in fact, when you do the measures, they have achieved and overachieved, haven't they?
Yeah, exactly. Almost every one of my clients have noticed that. As you say, you see yourself every single day. People around you are going to notice changes when it comes to something that you want to see. They're going to notice it before you, because like people who don't see you all the time. But if you do comparisons, so with photos or measurements, you can see those changes, because it is over a duration of time. And sometimes you may not see them either. Clients that we had done photos, and when we compared them, they're like, oh, I don't look that different. It took me to go in and be like, well, actually, have you looked at your arm in this photo compared to this one? Have you seen the lines that's coming through on your stomach? Sometimes you just need that outer person to go through it with you, especially if you are someone that tends to be, I mean, everyone is their own biggest critic, but someone that tends to be a little bit more harder on themselves or harsh. Sometimes you just need that outside opinion to really see those changes.
Yeah, sometimes we can't trust ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You also touched on, if you go into a new job. So I know for me, there was a stage in my life when I went from a physically active job to a more sedentary job. And I noticed that I started to gain weight. And it wasn't necessarily because I was indulging in food anymore. It was just simply because the amount of physical exercise I was getting had lessened. So I think it's important that we understand those changes in our life, and it could be age, or there could be lots of things contributing to it. So understand that and understand what you can do to counterbalance some of these things, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a lot of people work desk jobs or jobs where they're more sedentary, or people that are always in their car, rather than being laborious jobs or jobs where you're kind of always on your feet. It does make a big difference. Even if you're just standing there, it makes a huge difference to the way that your body works and how it stores your food. So even if you can make little goals for your day, as I said, or your week, that you get out and you go for a walk. It's just reassessing where you're at and where you're moving forward. So if you are starting a new job and you are really worried about how that's going to impact your performance or your training or your nutrition, it's having a plan in place so that if it does, what you can do about it.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, so we'll move on to my third and last question, Taylor. Actually, just so I'll go back to something there. It's also understanding what works for you in terms of sustainability. So I know for me, there's no way I'm going to exercise any time in the afternoon or evening. So I do my exercise. It's almost the first thing I do each day, because otherwise I'm simply not going to do it. So we need to understand what will work with our lifestyle, but even just our personal likes, isn't it?
Yep, exactly. I mean, I see this a lot in the classes that I instruct at Formula Fit. The people that come in the morning at 6 a.m. basically stay the exact same no matter what. Those are the people that can get up early and want to get up early and get it done straight away before they start their day. It's relatively similar to the people that train in the evening. They're the people that come after work that want to get it done, after they've sort of already finished their day. Where you want to place it is totally fine, and as you say, it's all up to the person. And as long as they're getting it in, like there's no issue as to when you train. It's you want, as I said, it needs to be sustainable, and it needs to be something that you can keep track of. I mean, maybe your work schedule is up and down all the time, so maybe you shift between the two. Or that, say, Thursday is your busiest day, maybe that's your rest day. So again, planning things in advance so that you know that, okay, well, if I don't make it to this if I don't do something on Monday, I've got a backup day for when I can do it next time.
Right. Okay,
So
great.
just planning and getting yourself ready so that if the worst comes to worst, you've got something there to sort of fall back on.
Yeah. And then don't feel guilty.
Exactly. Yeah.
So plan for success and don't feel guilty.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a Monday, fresh start sort of thing. If you say you mess up on a Tuesday, don't wait till the Monday. Do it the next day. Reset yourself. But say you've had a weekend where you've kind of just fallen off the rails and not really stuck to anything. Take a breather, take a break, and for a day, and then get back into it the next day. And don't beat yourself up about it.
Yeah. Thanks, Taylor. Okay, so my final question. I believe that looking after our physical well-being positively influences our mental well-being as well. So I know you agree with this, but can you share your professional thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I definitely agree with it. I mean, a huge aspect that people hear quite a lot is the fact that physical activity releases endorphins, and it's what we like to call feel-good endorphins. So once you've finished a hard training session, you've got all this blood pumping around you, you feel like you've achieved something, and so you feel good about it. So that's like the more physical side of things, that you really actually feel how good that is, and that impacts your mood. It also helps, physical activity helps you sleep more, sleep better, because it does tire you out. And so when you tend to get better sleeps as well, as long as you're not training directly before you go to sleep. So making sure you have that wind down, but it does improve your sleep. And so sleep can be a really big impact on your mental health as well.
Huge.
Yeah, like, I mean, in terms of how much you sleep, there is a variation with everyone, but how well you sleep is really, really important. If you're not sleeping well, majority of the time, your body's not going to be performing at that same level that you should be performing at. So a high level, functioning well, you may not be achieving things that you want to achieve, and then all of a sudden all these things start dropping off, and that's not going to feel good. Also, what the gym teaches you, or what physical activity teaches you, is things like discipline and building your confidence. So as soon as you start to see results, as soon as you start chipping away at those goals that you've set out for yourself, it builds this confidence in yourself. It's a very personal and individual way of reflecting. And as I said, it builds that confidence for you to be able to understand, hey, I did that, I should be proud of that. And this is where I want to go, and I know that I can get there now. So having that faith, having that trust in yourself is a huge thing. And that just comes with, well, not necessarily training. As I said, it could be sport, doing well in sport. It could be just going for a walk and getting some mental clarity. So say you're at your desk all day, as we've mentioned before, and you just get stuck in the zone. Maybe you eat your lunch at your desk, you just sit there all day. You're not giving yourself that mental break that you need. And I mean, I'm pretty sure statistics say that you can only really concentrate for an hour at a time anyway. So maybe for your lunch break, go for a walk, clear your head, get some endorphins going, and then come back and review things.
Exactly. And people were doing that through COVID in 2020. They were doing lots of walking, and you know, many people managed to handle what was a really difficult time with their, you know, with their chin up, and yeah, it was good for them. Okay, that's great, Taylor. Thank you for that. I think it's really important that we associate physical exercise and well-being with our mental well-being, because they truly are hand in hand. And sleep is imperative to our mental well-being. So whatever helps us encourage a healthy sleep, I encourage our audience to do that. So that's the end of my question, Taylor. I think I'm hoping we've given some great, or you have given some great tips on how people can set themselves up for 2021. And I will put your contact details at the end of this for anybody who wants to make sure that they're starting the year off right. Whether it just be a chat with you or a personal training session or sessions with you, they know they're in good hands with you. You know what you're doing, you're passionate about that. And the key thing for you is making sure that you look after your clients. I know that. So I think that's really important to point out. So before we say goodbye, do you have any final words?
I think also coming into the new year, the people that you surround yourself with is also a huge impact on your mental and physical well-being as well. So if you, let's take one that's super easy, your family and your friends. If you don't feel like you have that support there, maybe just look at adjusting things, or maybe look at how you can get that support. So maybe be a bit more open with your friends and family about what you need. But a big one that people don't understand is their sort of gym environment. If they go to a gym, or if they are a part of a team, or maybe they've been walking or exercising by themselves, and they actually just need someone there to be there with them and help them through it, and kind of bounce off of each other. So having that support around you is huge. It was something that I noticed straight away when I started working at Formula Fit. A lot of I never used to be a big person for classes. I was very independent and always did my own trainings because that was my time to be with myself. But coming into Formula Fit, the way that everyone is there in terms of classes, they're super inspiring. Everyone is really encouraging with what you do. You don't walk in and feel like people are judging you. And that's like the most important thing. We have a huge range of clients that come into the classes, and never once have any of them felt like they've been put on the spot, or they're not competing, or they are competing with other people. And I think that's a big thing that comes into play that a lot of gyms or a lot of teams don't offer, is that support that comes with classes, or teams or whatever. So I think that's a really, really big thing.
Yes, thank you for touching on that as well, because you're absolutely right. You become a community and you become connected with people who have similar interests to you. And if it's not the gym, then I know you participate in a lot of other types of activities where you're a community. Even if it's just for the day or for an hour, you're still a part of something. So a very important point to make.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Taylor, thank you so much for all that information. Thank you to everyone for watching. I truly hope that you have gleaned something from this chat. All the best with 2021 and your physical well-being. And please reach out to Taylor if you would like any assistance from her. So bye for now and stay safe.
See ya.